You want? Today on the RV, we are sorting out alarm problems. So at the moment, we can't start the engine. We're going backwards, really. The RV has a alarm immobilizer from a company called Laserline, which was fitted in 2006. And annoyingly, this is why we're going backwards, is we were able to start the thing before, but unfortunately, I've lost the fob that blips and unlocks and deimmobilizes the alarm. I do have a spare, which is this one, which is this little fob thing, but it just will not communicate. I've changed the battery, the lights come on, and it's this weird thing where basically, I think it's been wired in somehow to the right indicator, and then when that's on with a couple of fuses removed, this will communicate, as in it beeps, but it won't actually do anything to disarm the alarm or deimmobilize the engine. Now, I'm sure the other fob might turn up, but to be honest, I figure at this point it might be easier just to remove it all and just try and get it started. So if I bring you a little bit closer, if I get you down to where we are, there's a couple of wires I've just cut out here which don't go anywhere, which are part of the alarm. I'm going to try and just sort of bridge these two to see if it makes any difference. The alarm system itself is this thing. So this is the immobilizer, a Laserline Thatcher. This thing, it's an annoying, it's an insurance approved one, but it is old, so I don't know if that's still valid. There's this fuse brick, which I've taken a fuse out to stop the alarm going off. But yeah, this is what's so weird about it. Like if I was to, if you just give me 2 seconds, I'll show you how it seems to work. If I just remove the other fuse, there we go. And if I was now to put the ignition on and try and start it, doesn't do anything. That should light up. Don't know at this point if I've damaged it. But if I put the indicator on, and then yeah, this starts blinking with the indicator. And if I was then to press one of the buttons, yeah, still nothing. And it just refuses to do anything. Obviously, I've removed the fuses. If I put the fuses back in, turn the ignition on, the alarm goes off. So it's messy. I don't really understand it. So let's just get it removed. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to bridge those 2 wires down here. I don't really understand what these were for. I was hoping these 2 wires would be like a kind of like a pass through. So basically like where the start signal would be here, then there'd be like something interrupting it so that the box only sends 12 volts to the start signal if it's got it, but it just looks like 2 blank ends. Again, people who have worked on old cars before with all these crappy old alarms, you'll know the pain now. To be fair, looking at some of the manuals, and thankfully I do have manuals, it doesn't actually look that complicated. It looks pretty simple. The box just acts as kind of interim between the starter signal. But let's just see, if I was to bridge these 2, if this catches fire, it's going to be a great thing for camera. No fire as of yet. Where's my keys? The battery has got juice in it, by the way. It's got 12 volts. We should start. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I wonder what these were for then. The other thing is, you might think, can't you just try and repair the old fob? And I have tried that. Where is it? I've lost that now. I'm losing everything. I don't know. Oh, here it is. This thing. This weird little key thing. I've got a couple of these. That just kind of slots in there and it should do something, but it doesn't. But then obviously it says in the manuals, it said if you're going to repair a key, you need to open the driver's door, because obviously it's meant for a car, which this doesn't have a driver's door. It's not linked to any of the other doors. I don't know. And it doesn't mention anything about why it's linked somehow to the rear right into the front indicators. I don't know. So let's just try and cut this off. So I've got to trace my wires basically. Let me pull this up. There we go. Although again, it seems a bit stupid that just to stop the alarm, you just pull one fuse out and that's it, your alarm stops. Yeah, it's just difficult at this point because I don't know where this just kind of snakes into something. So now I've got to trace probably these red and pink wires. I assume they go to something related down there in the engine or something to do with the start signal. This seat's kind of in the way. So I've cracked out the manual. I think it's following this kind of configuration. So it's cutting the signal to the starter motor because it's not trying to crank, because that would be, I assume, this one, because if it was cranking, and I assume that's for the fuel pump. So you'd then have the engine trying to turn over. It would go like, you know, that, you know how an engine sounds when it's trying to start. It would try and do that and then wouldn't actually start because there's no fuel. The fuel pump's not activating basically. So Because we're not even getting a starter signal to the solenoid, I'm going to assume that's what this does. This box kind of fuses. This has to send a signal to the starter solenoids. That's what we need to reconnect, basically. It looks like it all kind of snakes underneath the front of the RV. So why don't we go and have a look? Unfortunately, though, it is raining. Let's have a look. There we go. I think this is all part of it. Unless this is part. Oh. So that was a development. So it is linked to that front door, the bonnet thing. So somewhere in this was talking about a pairing system, pairing with the door. Auto learning remote key or right. Open the door on the driver's side. We'll assume it's that. Turn ignition on. Press and hold A button on the functioning remote, which I don't have, or insert and hold the electronic key into the receptacle. The red LED on the dashboard will flash for 10 times and will turn on and remain on. This indicates the auto learning condition. At this point, press the A on the remote control that you want to right, okay. Guess go and close the bonnet. Give me a sec. Oh, I love alarms. I figure it might be a good idea just to reset the system. Plug that back in. Right, let me go and open the bonnet. Where do we go when the lights go out? Okay, gone solid. Then turn the ignition key to the on position. It's just going to go off though. Yeah, as it would. Oh, off. It's gone solid, so why don't you work? Just doesn't do anything. I just don't understand it. It's now day 2. Apologies for the sound quality. We haven't got a microphone. Just kind of doing this on a whim. So after a lot of trial and error, this is the alarm unit basically for the alarm, the transmitter. But it's obviously not just a siren. It's acting as part of the sort of to complete the circuit. So you can't just unplug this to stop the alarm going off if this doesn't work. There's loads of wires up here. You probably can't see very much that go inside the dashboard. As far as I can see, it's all concentrated under the dash. The alarm is obviously doing some kind of immobilizing of the starter solenoid, so that's why it's not even trying to crank over. It might also be immobilizing the fuel pump, although I hope it's not. And in a normal car, you'd be able to hear the fuel pump priming. But in this, I assume the fuel pump's in the tank. I don't even know where the tank is. It'll be somewhere back there. I don't think they would have done that. I think they would have just done the starter solenoid. That's enough. So we should be getting fuel to the engine. So yeah, what I'm going to do now, because it's all kind of buried down under the dash, is I need to get under here, which involves removing this seat. Okay, that should be all the bolts now. So I'm just going to undo the final one. You can probably see she's rocking. Kind of keeps loosening and then going stiff again. Okay, right, that should be now the seat. I hope something's still holding it in. The novelty of this thing is it wearing off? Yeah, it's wearing off pretty quickly. Got to be careful because all the wires are still very much connected. Yeah, I don't really know what that's really giving me because there's still a fucking massive base in the floor. There's bolt heads, which you can see there, but they just spin, they don't actually undo it, which obviously means there's probably a head of a bolt underneath the floor which you need to hold down, which I'm not doing, so that'll do for now. One thing I am noticing with this thing as well is that, because I've worked on cars for years now, and like when you're removing stuff that someone else has put in, it's normally pretty obvious what you're trying to sort of cut and remove, because it's normally the stuff that's been added is quite crude compared to obviously the factory wiring and stuff. However, with this, it's like it's all quite crude. So it's kind of hard to know, like all this is down here. This has always been here. It looks kind of factory, but then there's like just tape in there, as if like, is that been there from factory? It probably has. So we're just looking for somewhere where this has spliced in, because what it will probably be, the starter wire. There'll be the starter solenoid wire, which obviously tells, you know, sends 12 volts from the ignition barrel to the starter solenoid, or the starter relay. You know, say, yep, hey, you're ready to start, so start the engine. That's what's not working. What's weird though is that the actual starter relay is clicking, but I don't know if that's related to, I just don't know. I think that's the long and short of it, is I just don't have a fucking clue. Now we can inspect this thing. It's actually quite easier without the seat. So I'm going to cut all this off. So as I said, what we're looking for is something that's been, yes, look at that. This big, what the fucking hell is that? That was not in there from factory. This big yellow wire. What do you do, my friend? Or do we just not know? What is that? There we go. Right. Doesn't look very factory. But it also doesn't look like anything's kind of been spliced into it. So that literally just goes into the front, I guess, to send all the starty signals. What do you do? Where do you go? Oh god. I just need to know why that's been joined in, because it just kind of looks like it's not interrupting anything. It just kind of goes into this block, unless it is from factory, but I just don't see it would be. You've got cable ties under here. It just looks rough. Annoyingly though, I can't see any wires that have been added in from the alarm. This all looks fairly sort of together, i.e. nothing's been spliced in. So maybe we'll leave that for a minute and get our head underneath. I really don't want to go under there because of the old subwoofer residue, but let's get under there and see what's going on. I figure it might also be easier just to remove this panel. Is this ever going back together? No, probably not, if we're being honest. No. Be free, little thing. You've bolted it in down there as well. I'm trying to think what I'd give to have that fob. I've just dropped the bolt. I feel very, 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 very silly. And what's annoying is, as much as people know me, people who know me will know I lose things all the time. They often they get found again. I often don't, I just misplace things. I just put them places and they crop up again. And I'll go, oh yeah, of course I popped it in the popcorn packet. Of course I did. Where else would you put your fob? Oh, it's a back. It's a 9. Of course it's a 9. That common thing, a 9. That's a flattering angle, isn't it? Like a fucking swamp monster. Oh, be free! Be free, piece of trim! Be free! Okay, what does that tell me? Yeah, it doesn't tell me anything. All that's done is tell me, oh yeah, there's things here. But hey ho, it's out. Yeah, what I was trying to do was see if I could move this all out the way to see if I could figure out this loom here is part of the truck. I'm delaying the inevitable, aren't I? I'm just going to have to just get my head underneath it. And there's a purple wire that goes into a white wire. I think I'll probably zoom in on that in post, but okay, right, change of clothing, and we're getting somewhere. I started pulling bits of it away. I figured that removing it would be easiest. So you can see all these lovely wires that have kind of been joined and sort of intercepted. But it's all weird, it's all like down near the indicator module, which seems strange. You think it would just be for the flashers, but I don't think it is. There's so many different ones. I'm just going to start cutting things and then matching it back up to the factory wire and take out all this gunk. That's it, we've opened Pandora's box now, can't stop. Maybe this is just the door unit. Maybe all this does is if the bonnet door's open. To be fair, this has been wired in not great, not terribly, but it's like it may as well just be removed, I think. There we go. We finally managed to cut. I have to apologise as well for the noise. This is an active farm and there's a chainsaw ongoing, so I apologise for that. So you see this wire here. I've cut most of it out. That wire goes up here, and basically once you trace it, this wire here, and it comes up to here. So you can see that is really annoying. But yeah, you see this wire? It's been like cable tied to the AC lines, and it just snakes backwards. It's obviously not there from factory. That cable will hopefully go to the starter motor. It could go to the fuel pump, which I hope it doesn't, because that would then indicate there's some other problem. But in this case, because it's not even cranking, I will assume that cable is cutting the 12 volt feed to the starter motor or solenoid. I've got some wire cutters, so I'm going to start cutting all these cable ties off, and then we need to trace it back, figure out where it goes to, because I haven't quite figured that out yet. Problem is, it's just on a muddy floor, so I'm going to get absolutely caked in mud, but that's fine. Okay, no, that didn't work. Basically, that wire I was cutting was actually part of the rear tow bar electrics. So that's what gets, I guess, things like the indicator signal and stuff like that. Why it comes to the front, I don't know. Why you wouldn't just do it to the indicators and stuff at the back of the vehicle, I don't know. Who knows at this point? So I wasn't going to tow anything anyway, but half cutting that off. I'm going to try now, because I really am losing hope, because I can't see anything. I've looked at the starter motor wiring. It doesn't look modified in any way. So I really am at a loss. So what I'm going to do now is literally remove the battery, and I'm going to put in my car battery, which I know works. It's a lot smaller, so I don't know if it'll have enough power to start this thing. And then obviously it's probably going to drain my car battery, leaving me stranded. But hey, that's fine. Because yeah, I have started this before without disarming the alarm. I remember doing it, and it just rings. It just rings, but the engine does start. Again, hindsight's a wonderful thing. If it is just the battery, then I should have really have known that. But it's getting 12 volts. That's what's weird. It's getting 12 volts. You know, it's ran perfectly fine ever since it's been here. I've ran it for a fair while. So I don't see why that would stop it from running, really. But it's not even making an attempt to crank. It is just sort of, you know, it's just making that click noise, and that's it. Oh, why is it under a step? One battery, very chunky battery. If all this is because of a bad battery, I'm going to cry. But then why would you just wire up an alarm? What's the point of that? Especially one that I can take one fuse out of from right where the steering column is, and it stops the alarm going off. What would be the point of that? Why? Let's go for gold. 12 volts on the ignition. Nothing. So it is not the battery. I'm no closer. I just don't want to get an electrician. They cost so much money. They cost so much money, and it's money I don't have right now, and I certainly don't want to be wasting what little I've got on stuff that was working fucking a week ago, 2 weeks ago. The reason this is such a priority, by the way, is because I'm trying to diagnose some issues with the inverter, but because the house batteries are dead, I need the alternator to sort of charge them up a bit, and then I can obviously also start the generator. I also can't re-level the vehicle, put it back on its weight without the engine. You need the engine for, well, everything, really. So I'm a little bit stuck until I can get that engine going. I'm going to try and have a look at some wiring diagrams, see if there's a way I can kind of almost force the engine to sort of turn over. Okay, well, after a bit of faffing, I've now removed the rest of the alarm system, so it's now completely out. I've put the dashboard back together, there's nothing else under there. I've just taken the starter motor out and cleaned up the solenoids, given it a little whack with a hammer, confirmed it does work. By the way, I do have to apologise here for not filming that section. As you'll see in a few seconds, that would turn out to be a critical mistake. But essentially, the starter motor is the same as what you'd have in your car, a van, a motorhome, or another RV. In my case, it was only 2 bolts to remove and then just unplugging a couple of connectors. Depending on the vehicle, they can be a bit fiddly to remove, but they do get old and crusty and a bit grimy, so it's a good idea to take them off if you're having starting issues. Check your contacts where the 12 volts is fed, check that they're clean. In my case, they were a little rusty, so I've scrubbed them up with a wire brush, cleaned them up. I gave the starter motor a little sort of love tap with a hammer. Don't have to go mental, but nice and soft little taps to free it up if it's a bit gunky. I then applied 12 volt direct feed from my battery onto the terminals of the starter motor, which confirmed it was working, it was getting power and it was operating, so that was good. And then essentially I just bolted it back in and plugged it back in, and then we pick up from here. There was a loose bolt on the starter, so maybe that was it. I haven't tried this yet, so key on. No way. Oh shit, oh no. Oh, I don't know why I'm saying oh no, that's great. We've got an engine. An engine. Lovely. So yeah, it's really good. We've now got an engine working. Unfortunately, some other bits now have failed. Like I can't retract my jacks. So the thing that's keeping it off the floor, I can't retract them. My electric seats have stopped working. My radio doesn't work. And a few other switches are just seemingly not doing anything anymore. I assume it's a fuse, but I've checked all the fuses. They all seem to have continuity. So that's my next job. You can see I put the sides in, all excited, hoping to take it for a quick drive around the farm to get the brakes working, but no luck. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.